Hi, I'm Phil Jump, NWBA Regional Minister, and welcome to the latest in our series of videocasts designed particularly to try and support you as Christian leaders, as you in turn support God's people through these difficult and troubling times. We've set 6 priorities that we're suggesting churches need to think about, and the first of those is looking after God's people, and this is the second in the series of that. In the first one, we thought about the importance of establishing a good network of communication, of thinking about the communication platforms that you're going to use, and also beginning to think about what you're going to say through those platforms. So, what are we going to say? As I've been thinking and reflecting on this, it strikes me that we're already in a place of transition. We're already beginning to move from simply using technology to try and carry on as we were, of trying to gather, as it were, while we're in isolation, to actually beginning to recognise that we have the opportunity and perhaps even the responsibility to do different things and to act in different ways. Earlier this week, I had the privilege of being part of the Baptist Together Young Adult Forum. And again, of course, it was an online meeting. But as I was reflecting on that, it struck me that actually this technology that was quite a novelty for me, and these new ways of gathering, which were such a novelty for me, are actually pretty commonplace and everyday for the generation that was represented at that meeting. So, in a strange way, the church is being made to engage with the technologies and the communication platforms that the emerging generation just take for granted. And that perhaps is something we needed to do anyway. But it's also struck me that actually that's not just about the technology and the ways of communicating, but that in turn shapes the people we are. So our people, our congregations of whatever age, are going to be shaped by the circumstances that we're now in. We are going to emerge differently, and already our needs are different. So, as I said, I don't think it's just a matter of carrying on as we are and using technology, but actually thinking about what is it that we actually need to do differently. And I want to offer 4 things that maybe we need to think about in terms of that reshaping. The first is, I think we're going to move from being gathered congregations to being networks of disciples. Now, traditionally, the centrepiece of our church life, if we're honest, is a building, even if it's a hired meeting room. And what we do is we gather people in that meeting, we organise activities, and very often we as leaders are the people at the front, and what we're doing is inviting people to join in with what we're organising and what we're doing. Praying, learning, worshipping is a matter of turning up and joining in. But that's not going to be the case anymore, or at least it's not going to be the case for the immediate future. We need to help people to worship God. We need to help people take responsibility for their own discipleship. We need to help people think through what is the spiritual journey they want to go on, and we need to resource them. We need to inspire them to want to make that discipleship journey. We can't just organise events for them to turn up at and hope that that will in itself impact them and help them move in the directions that we feel are appropriate. It's maybe more a matter of letting people discover those directions for themselves. How can we do that? What part have we got to play as leaders in helping that to happen? The second thing it strikes me that we're going to have to do is, instead of leading people in worship, we're going to need to enable people to encounter God in their here and now. And again, that is quite a significant transition for people, because for many of us, our whole concept of worship is about turning up and joining in. It's about going and participating in something that other people organise for us. And if we're worship leaders, even that, we're in the business of organising things for others very often to do. But now we're going to have to help people discover God where they are. You know, we always speak of God with us, but in all honesty, we've embodied that for decades now. God is with us when we come together. God is with us because everybody else is with us. And it's not going to be like that. More than ever now, we're going to have to help people. Instead of realising they need to be present in church, they're going to have to learn, or we're going to have to help each other learn what it means to be present to God where we are. Paul's words about being living sacrifices, pleasing to God, are no longer going to really be the subject of our sermons. They're going to be something that we need to help people enact on a day-to-day basis. The third thing I think we're going to have to do is move from leading people in prayer to encouraging people to be prayerful. If there's one thing I'm hearing people say over and over again, it's that we need to be praying at the moment. But again, we can't organise prayer gatherings, or the only ones we can do are going to be online gatherings, and they're going to have their limitations. But we can still help people become more prayerful where they are. It's not going to be any more so much about praying for people, but helping people to pray for themselves. You know, one of the most profound and well-known prayers in our Christian heritage has to be the Lord's Prayer. And why did Jesus offer those words? What prompted him to say those things? It was because somebody came to him and said, Lord, teach us how to pray. So the challenge for us as church leaders is not to be telling people they should be praying, but helping people to learn how to pray. And the fourth thing is from pastoral visiting to spiritual mentoring. Now again, as leaders, very often at the key moments in people's lives, what we will do is we'll go around and see them. And okay, we can make a phone call, we can maybe use Skype or something else, but it's not going to be the same. We're going to have to equip people to journey through the circumstances they're in. We very often go into those situations as Christ's representative. Well, we're going to have to help people to find Christ for themselves in the situations that they're in. Very often we'll make a pastoral visit at a key milestone in someone's life. Perhaps they're getting married, perhaps they've had a child, perhaps they're seriously ill or bereaved. And what we're basically trying to do in that moment, I think, is to help them relearn what it means to be a follower of Jesus and a faithful disciple in some very different circumstances. Well, everybody is going through change. Everyone is facing different circumstances at the moment. People are having to live with the worry and the fear and the concern of what's going on, with the constant narratives coming from our news bulletins that inevitably are going to fill people with anxiety. But on top of that, people are having to also come to terms with a very different lifestyle. For some people, that means incredible isolation. For others, it means that there's a whole bunch of people now trying to live and play and homeschool and work all in the same house, and that's going to bring its own tensions too. And of course, the networks of support and the habits of support that we would look to in those places of struggle and crisis are not going to be there for us. And we again have a role in helping people connect spiritually in this incredibly new and different set of circumstances. And some of the other resources that we're offering as an association are designed to try and help you and be a resource for you in helping people through that journey. But you know, for all that it's laced with 21st century technology, it does strike me that a lot of the things that we're experiencing at the moment are actually almost forcing us to become a church that much more resembles the one that we see in the pages of the New Testament. Okay, we may not be gathering together in one another's homes at the moment, but in many other ways, what we're doing is returning back to those New Testament roots. And I think that offers us a real challenge and an opportunity as leaders. What kind of church are we going to be when we emerge from this? It just might be that we are a renewed church, a re-energized church, a church that has rediscovered something of its core purpose. And that could make us a very powerful presence in our society in the days going forward. So I hope these few thoughts help you begin to think about what you can do and how you can support God's people in these troubling times. Thanks for listening.